By way of prayer time today, I want to begin by thanking you for all of your prayers and support for those of us who were able to take the mission trip to Belize. And I want to share just a little bit about that with you this morning and show some pictures from our trip. The spiritual theme for this year's trip to Belize was something old, something new. That probably sounds familiar to you from our stewardship campaign. So something old, first of all. We stayed in the same village that Bethel has stayed in for years, San Narciso, and we made our headquarters at the home of Hilario and Aristeli Katzum. This is the home where we ate on the porch and worshiped together. And as always, each one of the 12 members of the mission trip, we stayed in various people's homes around that little village. Something old is that we were able to visit and renew friendships with people that folks from Bethel have known for years and years. So the next slide is Ernestina, who tells us her story. She has survived two major hurricanes there in Belize. She lives alone in a rickety shack on stilts, but you should hear that woman's testimony. She is a person of deep faith. The Santoya family that we visited lives in really what I would call extreme poverty, and yet they are raising and loving two, possibly a third child with a debilitating congenital disease. You see them there in the wheelchairs. This is little Kevin, whom Greg Cook has taken to the emergency room not once but twice. So Greg is his special friend. And finally, this is the family of Nell, a lovable disabled man that Bethel built a house for. You remember Nachos for Nell, right? You can see that house off to the right side of this picture. It's still there, still in good shape, still used by his family after he has passed away. We were able to go to Mass, and this is us in church there, at the Concepcion Catholic Church, which Bethel Church helped to construct that building. It is immaculate, and on the wall of this church is a picture of Bethel United Methodist Church. Can we get that one? There it is. That's us, you and me, hanging on the wall of a church in Belize. Every year we take supplies and we renew our connection with kids at the orphanage in Ladyville. And we play with the kids there. We took that parachute along, took jump ropes along, had a really good time connecting with those kids, and we leave bags full of supplies for that orphanage. And oh, you should taste the food. We do not go hungry while we are on this trip to Belize. The home family cooks meals for us every day. We ate the familiar garnachos, fry jacks, and salbutes, which are pan-fried tortillas. You would want to go just for the food. Several old hands went along on this trip, people who are experienced in this trip. Ashley Granger, Freeman Griffin, and his friend Fabricio Duarte, who has been before, and he's our translator when we need Spanish. There was also the McPhail family, Scott, Lindsay, and Bryson. Of course, Greg and Becky Parker. But there was something new this year. There were several people who went along on the trip for the very first time, and you see them in this picture. Fabricio's teenage son, Caleb, Jeff Hendricks, his family went last year. He went this year. There was Greg's friend, Virginia Rayburn, who was a nurse, and of course, it's always helpful to have a nurse along. And well, there's me on my first trip to Belize. A new project this year was that we painted the entire outside of this Methodist church, the Libertad Methodist Church, and we did Vacation Bible School with the children at the Libertad Methodist School. We told there's about 200 kids, and so all day long we did this Bible school over and over in shifts, and we were telling the old story of the Good Samaritan in a new way, including, I don't know if you can see in that picture, Fabricio as the donkey in that story. That was the big hit with the kids. Our major new project this year was to prepare a home for Elvira No, N-O-H. No is her last name. Her daughter Melissa and her son Neftali. Here's the story. This family was found living literally, I mean literally they were living in a pigsty in the middle of a sugarcane field with a boa constrictor crawling all around the children. That's how they were found. From there, they moved into this, what is charitably called a shack, I think, and they lived there for a while until this year. A couple of years ago, the local junior college, which one of the Kotzum family teaches, donated this building, which had been used as sort of a modular classroom, and there it sat on wooden stumps for a while until this year. Our advanced team arranged for it to be put on this foundation, and then our Bethel team worked a couple of days painting and cleaning both the inside, and there it is, the finished project. We put locks on the doors. We made sure that the windows work, and in time, a priest came. There's all of us outside the home there that we worked on, and a priest came to give a blessing to this home. The Senora No was absolutely in tears, just overcome with gratitude, and she told us, she said, I have never owned anything in my entire life, and now she has a home to live in. And my friends, we got to be part of it. You and we were the hands and feet of Christ for this woman. Everywhere I went in Belize, people had kind words. They remember Bethel International Church. They asked prayers for Pastor Mike and remember him fondly. We are sisters and brothers in Christ with countless people 3,000 miles away. I went to Belize for the first time, and there were dozens of people say, oh, you're Pastor Glenn. I've watched your video on Facebook. That's the sort of relationship we have with people. This annual mission trip has become a spiritual and material foundation in the lives of people in many villages, and it has become a spiritual foundation in the life of dozens of people here who get to take the trip. So the mission trip is now, 10 or 11 years old, and it will be new again next February. What I'm asking you to do today is to begin praying now for God to bless next year's trip, and maybe you want to go with me on that trip. If you're not able to go in person, I hope that you will prepare to be in prayer for us and to provide the material support that it takes to do this. In closing, I asked the youth and young adults who went along on this trip a couple of questions. I said, there they are. Everywhere it's OHIO, right? I asked them to share, where did you see God, or how did you grow spiritually from your week in Belize? Ashley Granger says this. She says, I saw God in lots of places on this trip. He filled the whole week with love. I saw him in the little boy Aylin's laugh. I saw him in the No's new house. I saw him in the church we painted. He was all around. And Caleb Duarte, on his very first trip there, says this, opening up to new settings that are drastically different from our norm pretty much displays how disadvantaged some people may be. A better understanding of this helps us develop a better sense of empathy. I saw God on this trip mainly through the people we encountered. Despite the fact that they had significantly less, none of them seemed sad or depressed, contrary to what we usually see here in the U.S. And I was constantly wondering why they acted this way. Well, we know why they act this way, don't we? God is in their heart. Christ is in their mind. I am delighted to share this report with you today.